Hi, and welcome. This is for MCAT Smackdown. It's called the Comfort Trap. I'm Dr. Kashmer. I'm an admissions committee chair at a medical school in the U.S. and chair of surgery. Let's get to it. The comfort trap is why the studying that feels best predicts your score the worst. There's no way of studying for the MCAT that really feels excellent. You finish the block, maybe you get most of them right, and you close the laptop, you're sure you learned something. In fact, that's actually the most reliable way to build a score that doesn't move. Today, in about the next 20 minutes, we'll tell you exactly why that's true and some of the moves you can make to improve things way beyond the comfort trap and things that get you out of that trap. In fact, this method that feels the most productive, it's often doing the most damage. Here's why. You may work 30 hours a week and be stuck at the same score. This could be your third month of doing it. I see all the time students asking, well, gosh, I'm plateaued. What can I do? Over and over. They ask me, they ask on Reddit, they ask in other places online. You've probably done the reading. You've done the cards, Anki and otherwise. You've done the full lengths, and that number just sits there. It's unmoved, and it seems to be indifferent to what you've poured into it. Now, somewhere around month 3, in my experience, students stop asking what's wrong with their plan, and they start asking what's wrong with them. That question is the wrong question, and this is going to take it off the table. You don't have a motivation problem. You wouldn't be watching this at 11 p.m. It's going to kill a lot of viewers. But you wouldn't be watching this anytime if you did. You have a design problem, and design problems are fixable. The hours aren't the issue. The architecture of your study plan is. Well, let's talk about who's telling you all this. I'm David Kashmer. I'm a board-certified trauma and acute care surgeon who's trained residents through some of the hardest board exams that are in medicine. And that can be the American Board of Surgery in-training exam for residents, or surgical boards, or medical students who have helped with the MCAT for years. My background is also as an admissions committee chair for a medical school in the U.S. So I sit on the committee side. I see who gets in, and I see the scores that get them there. That view from the seat on the other side of the table changes everything, and that's baked into MCAT Smackdown. I'm a master black belt in quality improvement. The techniques are called Lean and Six Sigma. In surgery and quality engineering, we don't fix a bad outcome by just working harder. We find the points where the defects enter the system and what lines up to make them, and that's what we fix. So that's all baked into MCAT Smackdown. One of the biggest problems we see is that people mistake fluency for competence. Now, fluency is not competence. Fluency is just how smooth the material feels while you're studying it, with a chapter open, the subject named, and the answer type already known before you begin. Now, competence is producing it cold or under time pressure, or nobody's told you what kind of problem you're looking at. That's what the MCAT actually measures. Almost every study system that maximizes fluency feels productive in the moment. And some of them are actually destroying your test state performance, and they're doing it actively. Your brain uses the "this feels easy" as a proxy for "I know this." And let me tell you, it is a bad proxy. Here are the crossing lines of what's called block studying versus interleaved studying. Take two groups, same material, same total practice hours. One studies in blocks. We're going to do cars. Then we're going to do physics. And the other interleaves. They do some cars. They do some physics. They do some bio. They jump all around between the many parts of the MCAT. And it turns out the results are striking and consistent when these two styles are pitted against each other. Here is the blocked practice in black, and here is the interleaved practice. And you can see over time that scores, percentile correct, etc., these lines cross as we move forward in time. And it turns out interleaved practice is superior over time. Mixing things up, going from one thing to another is better. This result replicates across decades of learning research, across domains, and across ages. The method that performs better while you're doing it, the one that's fluency, you feel better. Over time, it performs worse when it counts. The lines cross, and your score is determined by where you land on the right side of the graph, whether you used interleaving or whether you used blocked practice. Block practice skips the hardest step of the real exam. In other words, when you know you're in the amino acid chapter or a section with it, every question arrives pre-diagnosed. You never have to answer the actual first question of the MCAT, which is, well, what kind of problem is this? So you've been drilling execution, solving the problem once you know its type. You've built speed and accuracy inside a labeled context. But what you've been skipping, and what many skip, is identification, recognizing the problem type cold and upfront. On test day, this is almost 100% of the difficulty spike. And guess what? The MCAT is interleaved by design. You go from cars to biochem, and et cetera, et cetera. You'll have consecutive passages that switch discipline on purpose. You have a physics passage and something sociology, then cars, then biochem. The AAMC is not being random. It is testing discrimination under load. Your prep removed the discrimination, or at least most of it, and just left you the load of the number of questions. It's the worst possible trade. You get all of the fatigue, but none of the skill that the fatigue is supposed to be testing. Here's what the AAMC actually tests. Can you identify, pivot, and execute across disciplines, cold, back to back at hour 5? It's really what it's asking for. It's what it isolates for. Late in the game ability to identify and change modes from one question type to another. Blocked prep builds speed and accuracy inside a single subject. Well, guess what? That skill vanishes the moment the labels disappear. The net result is you get maximum fatigue, but minimum preparation for the exact cognitive skill the test is scoring, which is hour 5. Can you jump from one type to another and still get them correct? Same question to context. Let's talk about version A of the question and version B. Version A is labeled. It's the identical question sitting under a header that reads thermodynamics. Subject's named, problem type, telegraphed. You probably get it right. Version B, no label, same question. Same item dropped between a psych passage and a cars passage of some other kind. No label, no context. Accuracy in that situation falls off a cliff, even though the chemistry is exactly the same. Nothing about the chemistry changed, but everything about the task changed. If you got version A and you missed version B, you have a content gap. You just never practiced the thing the test is actually measuring. Cold identification under mixed load. Your practice full lengths over-predict for many, and here's why. Practice measures recognition. Can you retrieve the answer with context clues present, the subject warm, the review fresh, and the material from the same week? Now, guess what? Test day measures retrieval and identification. Can you produce it cold, unlabeled, at hour 5, with no warm-up, no signposts telling you what domain you're in? Most third-party exams are assembled subject adjacent, and most students review them the same day the material's still warm. That 510 was real, it just wasn't real for the actual MCAT. The gap between your practice average and your score has a name. It isn't bad luck. The illusion of readiness is the expensive part. A plateau you can see is manageable. A plateau disguised as progress is what wrecks cycles, because you don't adjust to what you can't see. The old line is, eyes can't see what the mind doesn't know. Maybe you sit too early and you take a test you weren't ready for. Well, that score follows your application for years. Maybe you push too late. You delay a date you were actually ready for. You lose the cycle anyway, along with the application window right alongside it. Either mistake costs a year, but both come from the same source, a practice score that measured comfort instead of competence. One habit, all 5 leaks. The 5 content leaks, the 5 score leaks include content leaks from content gaps, cars and reasoning strategy issues, timing and execution, endurance and stamina, and a non-accountable study system. What block practice does to each of these is predictable. Content gaps are hidden behind content cues. You look like you know it because the label's always there. Cars and reasoning, well, block studying, you're never really trained if you do it the Cars way with a block often because you're always told what to think about before you start reading. Timing and execution, well, the transition cost from one to the next question is removed. So pacing's never real. Your clock is running on easy mode. Endurance and stamina, it's never really built because you never sit the whole thing under genuine mixed load. Non-accountable study system, perfectly camouflaged because it feels productive. It's the most dangerous leak of all. Your study system is just not accountable to anyone besides what you guess about. Now, 4 of these 5 do not respond to study harder. That's why the hours go up, but the score doesn't. Move 1 to correct these, and let's talk about the moves that can correct these. Move 1 is interleave on purpose. Stop studying just one subject every session. Mix disciplines inside every block you sit. It's the single highest leverage change you can make to your study architecture today. No 2 consecutive passages should share a subject ever. Not as a goal, as a hard constraint. Expect worse session accuracy. When you do that, your numbers are going to drop. It's not failure. It's the gap between fluency and competence becoming visible for the first time. Expect afterward to feel worse, like you learned less. That feeling is the signal that your practice is finally matching the exam. Discomfort in practice is fidelity to test day. Move 2, review by root cause, not by explanation. Rereading the explanation is the second comfort trap because it feels like review, but it changes nothing because it treats every miss as the same kind of miss, and they aren't. Here again are the misses: careless error, content gap, timing pressure, logic or reasoning error, graph and data interpretation, test anxiety. Every miss gets exactly 1 tag at least. Some have more than 1, no exceptions. After 100 questions like this, you'll have something you've never had before: your actual failure distribution. A distribution by type of error and what you need to do about it. You'll have a prescription that follows from data just instead of your hunch. Move 3 is train the transition. The cost isn't inside the passage, it's in the switch. 4 to 8 seconds where you dump one mental model and you load up another. That window is where your points are actually going. Most students have never practiced it. So practice switching cold. No warm-up block, no easing in. Just jump between disciplines at the start of every time section and simulate the first question after a discipline change. Time the first question after every switch. Track it. Watch what happens to your time and accuracy in that first question after a discipline change. That number is going to surprise you. You're going to see it's long. Next, treat the switch as a trainable skill, because it is. You can build a faster, cleaner transition from one subject to another, but only if you deliberately practice it and not just endure it. Your practice scores should get worse for about 2 weeks. It's not a side effect. It is the mechanism working. You're trading fluency that you never needed for competency that you didn't have before. And the trade has a visible cost before it has a visible payoff. Things will get worse before they get better. About day 9 of doing this is where we see students quit. They see the dip. They decide interleaving, quote, doesn't work for them, unquote. And they go back to the method that felt good but did nothing. Anyone who tells you the fix feels good is selling you comfort. The 2-week, 9-day dip is not punishment. It's your brain building the architecture that blocked practice never touched. I'd rather MCAT Smackdown sell you the 2 weeks and the dip than the false confidence that comes from a method that measures the wrong thing. Well, luckily for you, you don't have to hand build this. You could, but you don't have to. MCAT Smackdown is built interleaved end-to-end. There are up to 22 practice-length exams, and we do more all the time. There are 22 full-length exams. Every section mixes every discipline. Consecutive passages, switch subject by design. You can't settle in. There's automated root cause routing. Every miss is tagged in part by you during review to one of 6 root cause categories or one of the leaks. Your failure distribution builds itself. You're able to review that. You can automatically get your tags to show you your Pareto distribution of failure and what happened with those questions. There's an AI coach. It's not canned drills. The AI coach will read your performance data, works with you in real time, gives you an interpretation of what your misses are telling you and what to do next. There are more than 460 reasoning questions, and there's a CARS simulator for daily CARS practice, purpose-built for one of the leaks. It's CARS and reasoning strategy. It's the leak that most blocked practice students really haven't trained even once. You could assemble a version of this yourself. It would take a while. It would take you probably weeks that you don't have, but it could be done. You don't have to. MCAT Smackdown has this built for you. It turns out that every MCAT course raises your score, at least it could. They have the potential to. This one not only improves your score, but raises your application too. I sit on the committee side, and here's what our group for MCAT Smackdown realized. And it's what most prep never tells you. A 515 attached to an application assembled in panic in August loses to a 511 attached to a coherent one that got its secondaries done, one that tells me really why this school instead of just a generic answer with a blank that could be any school. We can tell. We can tell when you've written for us. And MCAT Smackdown has multiple tools built into it that come right along with it when you're in the cohort that help take away the pain points from the rest of the application too. Not only does it help with those pain points, it really is all about taking the MCAT you achieve when you perform the best you can on that day. And it helps you package things in a way that the admissions committee finds for you to be your best self and to be rated that way. The score is a gate. It's not the decision. Our committees evaluate the full picture, and the full picture can take months to build well. But when you're getting more than 50 or 60 secondaries in the month of July, it can be really hard, and MCAT Smackdown helps ease that pain. It helps you meaningfully show the committee who you are and why you should be able to go to their school. Fixing your leaks early is what helps buy back the months you'd otherwise spend cramming, and those months in part are the application. Again, MCAT Smackdown has specialized tools that takes that valuable time and helps you build an incredible application that shows you as the best you can be. Remember, the student who seals the leaks in March looks different than in September, and committees notice. But even beyond that, for whenever you take the MCAT, there are specific tools and techniques that can help elevate your application and improve your chance of admission so that the committee recognizes you for the excellent student you are. 4 questions. Pause on each one. First, do you study just one subject per session? If yes, you've been removing the hardest step of the real exam from every practice block you've sat. 2, is your time score lower than your untimed score on the same material? If yes, the gap isn't content. It's transition and identification cost that you've just never trained under pressure. 3, does your accuracy fade in the back half of a full length? If it does, your endurance and stamina have never been built under genuine mixed load. 4, when you review a miss, do you read the explanation and move on? Well, if you do, you've been treating every miss as the same kind of miss, and your plan, well, it has no root cause data to act on for why you don't represent what you know the best you can on your test day. Every yes is a leak with your name on it. If you answered yes to any of these questions, you have leaks. And in 4 questions, you just learn more about why you're stuck than most students learn in 3 months. You can't fix a plateau, you can only feel. Before you change a single thing about your study plan, find out where the points are actually going. The free assessment from MCAT Smackdown gives you 2 things you don't have right now. First, your projected score. It's a calibrated number, not a vibe. It's not a practice test average inflated by blocked conditions. 2, it shows your hardest bleeding section, the single section where your points are leaking hardest right now. A place to start, not guess. Here's some straight talk about what it is and what it isn't. The assessment tells you where in the test you are weakest among the different sections. Naming your specific leak patterns, which of the 6 root causes is doing the damage, and in what order, comes from the longer diagnostic that we run early in the course. But you can't skip where. Every student who breaks a plateau starts by finding out which section is bleeding. Every student still stuck at the same number 6 months from now is the one who just kept guessing. So stop studying comfortably. And to do that, take the free assessment. It's at MCATSmackdown.com. It takes about 20 minutes or so, costs nothing. There's no account that you need to set up. And take it tonight or today, whenever you're watching this right after, while it still bothers you. Tomorrow you'll be busy. And busy is how plateaus survive. Remember, MCAT Smackdown's Seal the Score Leaks is available on Kindle and in paperback on Amazon and other places books are sold. Be sure to take a look at it. It is nowhere near the full method from MCATSmackdown.com, but it has a lot of useful facts that you can use to help improve your score if you're not able to access the course. But start with that free assessment. It'll tell you, because tomorrow you'll be busy. And of course, that's how we kick the can down the road to make our plateaus survive.